Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Small Business Summer Series. We're here every Tuesday night at the Lost Parrot Cafe. I'm here with Jeff Mindell.
Hi.
Now, I did say his name correctly. Some people think it's Mindell.
I think you called me
I did,
Mindell
but
for
I made the
first few
mistake
years.
once. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And then we have Jen Griswold. So I'm going to start with Jeff over here.
Okay.
I go to my notes.
The pressure is on. All right.
So I've known you for, we try to figure it out, maybe like 7-8 years, something like that, I think.
Yeah, so we moved here in like 2011. I probably met you in like 2013 or so, maybe.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Let's talk about, because you're from New Jersey, so
I'm from New Jersey.
let's talk about that.
Okay.
Like, how'd you get here? What
do you
brought
wanna
you
know?
here? You
So I flew here.
you
on
fell
a
in love with
plane.
the girl.
I did, but that happened on the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
On the East Coast,
Yes.
and then you guys came here as a team or a
We
couple?
came here as a team, just getting our feet wet for one summer in like 2010 to see if we even liked LA. We were both still in school on the East Coast, and then we both loved it and decided to finish school on the East Coast, and then moved out here. Wow, are we doing like a live?
We're live now.
Oh my God!
I went for
It's
it.
like here and here and here. Jesus Christ!
P.S. You know what's crazy?
What?
I did this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And what?
Do you want to tag Jeff?
Isn't that
Mindell?
crazy?
How does
It
it know
knows
my
that.
face?
Do you want to tag Jeff Mindell? How weird is that?
So you said Mindell.
Mindell. Sorry.
It's fine.
Mindell.
It's like the terrible computer company. That's how you remember it.
There you go.
Anyway.
Anyway, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, that's my story. So then we decided we liked the city.
So wait, you just came out here to check it out, or?
We came out here. We both wanted to get jobs, so we both had a means of paying for our rent for the summer. We lived in Glendale. I worked downtown. My wife worked in Beverly Hills, and we shared a car. I worked on the days that she wasn't working, so every day we had a car. And yeah, we decided we fell in love with the city. At the end of the summer, we were in school in Washington, D.C. We went back to D.C., finished school, and then we moved back out here permanently.
Cool. So this is a small business series, but a lot of people that I interview here usually either intern or work for free
Yeah.
or have some way to like really like kind of grind in their
Yes.
craft in the beginning.
Yes.
So how did you, it sounds like you just came here like on a whim, but did you have a plan? Did you have a job?
Completely on
Did
a
you-
whim. No.
And what was a
plan.
plan that you were going to be doing here?
The plan was to just get my foot in the door in
Of what?
in some kind of like advertising, creative, PR.
Okay.
I didn't really know what that was.
I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, this was like before social media. This was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something creative in business. So what I did was I scoured like Craigslist, and I answered a Craigslist ad for a very small, what was at that point a very small startup. It was like 2 girls and a guy out of a like tiny little room in downtown LA. 2 of them I'm still really close with. One of them has grown a company, which is now Create and Cultivate. Jacqueline Johnson, if any of you know her, she started with me way back when.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so I was
Crazy.
Jackie's first intern like many moons ago, and now she's like taking over the world. But
Jeez, I know.
we started in a really small company where we were doing like experiential marketing events centered around like the art walk in downtown, and we did like DJ pop-ups and things out of our space in downtown. And as an intern, I was just getting my foot in the door with what was at that time cutting edge social media, which was like Tumblr or like Twitter or whatever. This was like before a lot of what is relevant
this was that weird
platforms
time
today.
after MySpace when like those other things kind of popped up.
This
right?
was a time
Yeah.
when like people were like, "Oh, remember MySpace a few years ago?" And so it was, for me, it was a great summer just for meeting a lot of people that I now work with in a much different capacity. I met a lot of people that summer years and years ago that I work with that have since like hired me as a professional, what I do now, that I just met as like a kid all these years ago, which is just so crazy. But it was a good learning experience for me. It was very like hands-on.
That was basically your internship.
That was.
But
my
you were getting paid for projects.
Yeah.
Back then,
And then when I wasn't doing that, I was like, well, rent's really fucking can I curse on this thing?
Yep.
It's
Fuck yeah.
very expensive in LA. So when I wasn't doing that, like when my wife was working, I would walk down the street to the brand new Americana at Brand. At that time, it was like still being built.
Oh yeah.
And I worked at the Banana Republic or something for like an hourly thing just to make extra money because our rent was really high. And yeah, that was my summer before I got to LA, and then we came back to LA a year later, and I got a job at Edelman PR on the Wilshire Corridor.
Not a bad place to work.
Not a bad place to work. And I did that for like a year, and then I realized that I don't want to do corporate America. I realized very quickly that what I had gone to school for 4 years put me in this position where I was...
Real quick, what did you go to school for?
I went to school for public communication and marketing, which was basically like what was the most creative thing I could have taken at a very politically active school, and I wanted nothing to do with politics. And I got to Edelman, and I realized that the goal in agency life at the end of the day is to work your way up, and in public relations, it's a lot of bending over backwards for your clients and kissing ass and working your way towards that sweet corner office. And I really did not want that life. It was very stressful.
Kissing rings.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of perks that came with the job, but I also did not like I just didn't like the culture that people 20 years my senior were like stressed out. And I was like, I don't really want this life. So when that job came to an end, basically, that was like another paid internship. When that came to an end, I didn't want to re-up or anything, so I went in a different direction. And cut me off if I'm talking too much.
No, I'm gonna cut you off in a minute, but not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
You got a little bit longer.
I went in a different direction. I took some time to reevaluate what I wanted to do. I actually filed for unemployment from the city of Los Angeles because for a while I couldn't get a job, and I was collecting unemployment checks. And then I got a job at a real estate agency doing like admin stuff. So I don't have a real estate agent license, but I was in that world, working in that world, doing a lot of the skills that I brought to the table from my past jobs. And that was really fun. And I met a lot of great people. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 years until my photography stuff kind of started to outweigh, again, the desk job that I had.
Now I'm stopping you.
Great.
Because there's a question I want to ask, but then I'm going to go to Jen for a minute, and then I'll ask you.
Go for it.
This is yours. Welcome.
Thank you.
Alexei, can you turn that down? Thank you. Let's talk about you. You know what? I don't know a lot about you, so that makes it really fun for me, actually. So tell me your story. Like, how did you get here?
How did I get to LA?
How did you get to to LA? We can talk about that
doing
first.
Now.
Let's talk about how you got to LA.
So, I was probably...
Where are you from, kiddo?
I'm from all over, but I was probably the last person in the entire world to join Instagram.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've only been on Instagram for about 2 years. And I joined because a friend told me it was the coolest thing ever. And I really didn't see a difference between this and Facebook other than it was like scrolling pictures. But I joined on a whim just as a hobby. I got reposted by a lot of brands. I got a lot of brand attention. I grew pretty quickly. I was living in DC at the time as well. And yeah.
What?
And I got asked to be part of a DC's most stylish influencer type thing.
I can't believe you both
part of a magazine.
You guys are both from there.
I mean, I'm from there. But
Well, you went to college
I'm
there.
also not from there. But yeah, and so as I grew, I sort of niched myself in more style. And when I came to LA, 2 years ago. I started working with brands on a much closer level. And what I mean by that is working really closely with designers, meeting CEOs, meeting really creative people that inspired me. And
well, hold on.
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
How did I do that?
Yeah.
I think
Did you just DM people?
It was a little bit of both, to be honest, but I think I was really lucky and it happened really organically, and I met some really cool people. And after collaborating, I was offered jobs with different brands that I still work with now.
Like ambassadorship or something like that?
No, I work for LA Made Clothing, which is an ethical brand based out of downtown LA, and I was doing their social media management, but I now do marketing for them, and I work for People of Leisure, which is also a sustainable brand, and I'm their creative director.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, let's go back to, because you kind of have a different background that you went to school for, right?
Yeah, I have.
Which I didn't know till like 20 minutes ago, by the way. But
I have no fashion background whatsoever. I worked at Banana Republic also once in high school.
What?
So
Gift
much
card.
But I'm actually.
We should get a gift card for that, all three of us.
We should all.
Daddy
get
needs new socks.
Something.
I think I got fired. I don't know if they want me back.
Jeff got fired. Big mistake.
I wasn't fired, but I don't work there anymore. Yeah. What was the question?
So anyway,
I don't.
What did you go to school for?
Yeah. Okay. I'm actually a psychotherapist. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I still work. That's like my real grown-up job. When I'm not doing my own Instagram or working for LA Made.
That's
or
a pretty
People of
big
Leisure.
grown-up job.
It is a pretty grown-up job.
Yeah, I didn't know that till like 20 minutes ago.
It's
so
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you put your time and allocate your time for both projects? Because it sounds like you have two passions.
I do.
Right?
I do. Well, I love what I do on Instagram. I love what I do at People of Leisure because there's a part of me that has always been very creative, and it keeps me creative and it keeps me inspired. But I also love working with children and families, which is a great job to have as well. So I do both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go back to, I'm going to ask both of you guys this question, but kind of what you're saying, like there was Tumblr and MySpace was gone and Facebook came around, which is more of like a college platform at the time. How did you because a lot of people that come here don't know where to start. So when you said you met CEOs or owners of companies, was that going to events? Was that, because LA is it's a very big, but also very small pond.
It really is.
And a lot of those people go from company to company. You know that too, working in PR. You probably have the same contacts from 3 people that you did 10 years ago from somewhere else, right? How did you get into finding those people directly?
Well, I would say with collaborating with brands.
Or was it just photo and they shared it and then you're like, oh, hi, my name's...
No,
Okay.
it was, I get a lot of messages or emails inviting me to collab, but it's also through DMs that I would send out to different brands that interest me. And as I've grown, I've definitely narrowed my interests, and I pretty much 90% work with sustainable fashion now, which is a really small pond. As small as the fashion world is.
Well, the
here, yeah,
real
it's-
sustainable people, yeah. It's
Yeah.
very small, yeah.
So I think
There's
that's
probably
also-
like less than 10 in LA, or even less than that possibly, right?
I think the people are
If you're
really
talking
doing
like
it.
organic and really sustainable,
Local,
made in
yeah,
USA, yeah.
exactly.
Fabrics that are made here, or yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So what I don't think people realize is the power of DM. You probably don't DM as much, but you probably get DM'd way more. I think your situation, but I actually DM'd you to come to this tonight. Do you
That's
remember
right.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you manage your family and 2 different passions?
I don't. I'm just
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
It's I try, I will say, if I said like, oh, it's so balanced, that would not be being authentic. It's much like spinning plates. And I'm very lucky to have a super supportive partner. And my kids are also very understanding.
Do you want to
and
give them a shout out?
supportive. They're over there in the corner.
What's up, guys?
But I've had one of my sons takes a picture of for me in a
It's
pinch.
a family business.
It
yeah.
totally is, and
This
they
guy's
understand.
at a family business too. Trust me.
That's right. And they understand that I do a lot, but they're part of it. And if it wasn't a teamwork situation, it wouldn't get done. Yeah.
Cool. Now I'm gonna go because there's a lot of stuff to talk about here about this whole topic actually. So you're DMing people, or you were in the beginning.
Yep.
Now people are DMing you. I think
Yeah.
Jeff, definitely people are DMing you as
Yeah.
well. What's the best way to get a hold of someone like you, or your caliber, or your,
Caliber. Email.
Some people don't respond, which I think is
Email.
okay.
I don't.
So do you have an email? You've got the email contact on your
Yeah.
handle, and then okay.
Yep. My email's public across the board, and I monitor my inbox probably way more than I should. Whereas like my DM inbox, they get lost, so I don't often see if there's. So I just don't. I tell people not to. If you want to get my attention, don't do it that way because I probably won't see it. Yeah, but email is a great tool.
How do you? Because you have kind of two. You kind of have two careers. Kind of like Jen,
Yeah.
in my opinion, too. You have your
Yeah.
photography,
Yeah.
and then you've got, which led into your other business, which is like an influencer, I guess, right? Is that what you?
Yeah.
Or just you, Jeff Middles, yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call yourself?
No, influencer's not my favorite word.
Yeah,
but
you know what I
yes,
mean.
That's what
Yeah.
that is what is industry standard now. Yeah. So I get hired as a traditional photographer, where people would hire me for my skill set, and my.
And most of that is products. Is it clothing?
It
Is
started out actually with a lot of products. I used to get hired for a lot of just like product shots when people were into like the like flat lay type of photos with like lifestyle type
the grids and all that?
Yeah, people aren't really doing that as much anymore. Now I get hired for more so just I almost equate it to like a feeling. Like I might get hired by a company that is based anywhere else outside of like Southern California, and they're like, "Hey, you're based where it's sunny 365 days a year, and your aesthetic that you put out there is very bright and colorful, and for that reason, we would love to hire you to bring that feeling to our company or brand, because they might be in like rainy Minnesota or something, for example."
Right.
And those images they would probably fall under like the lifestyle umbrella, where we're utilizing a product in a real life environment as opposed to just like a product in a studio, which is probably what I was doing more so years ago. I think the customer bases that are representative of the companies that hire me, I think respond more to when you are able to see a product in use. So for that reason, it's that type of end result that people are often looking for. And then there's like the traditional clients where they might hire me for interior work or, I get hired by a lot of like hospitality brands now to shoot restaurants or hotels or homes or anything like that.
How do you separate, like, if they want to hire you as Jeff Middle, the photographer,
Yeah.
but they're like, hey, can you repost this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you work that out?
So everything comes to the same inbox. If it's for a traditional photography job.
No, I meant like let's say you get hired
Yeah.
by like the Ace,
Okay.
and they hire you as a photographer.
Yeah.
Do they expect you to post it or do a story about it on Instagram?
They could. And if it is explicitly written in the contract, then I usually loop in my management team, because
Right.
at that point they're hiring me in addition to my skill set as a photographer. They're hiring me for my likeness and my social media following.
Right.
And I don't handle any of that. I have a manager that does all of that. So,
Let's talk about that too.
okay.
When did that come along in your journey of?
About
Let's-
2 years ago.
Okay.
My wife has it started out as a blog, is now just like a online brand. And she was working with this agency. They represent digital media personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And I
We
was
don't have to name them. It's okay.
what?
You could say who they are. Your manager.
Oh, shout out to Charlotte Colley
Uh,
at DBA. um,
There you go. DBA.
DBA.
DBA is like the they represent everyone.
They represent everyone.
They came in hot, man.
Yeah, they
Oh
are
my
like
God.
they're wonderful. We love them. So
I worked
they-
for a
Yeah.
photographer agency, like a big one. I don't want to name who they are.
Yeah.
But they actually, anytime an influencer came up that had DBA attached, they'd get like super bummed because they were so good at what they did
They're great.
and they represented you guys so well. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, you're good. So my wife was represented by DBA, and a lot of her content, I, as her significant other, was just naturally folded into.
Right.
And so people got to know me, and then I was negotiating a lot of my own brand deals by myself.
But there's a lot of, I think the term was blogger husbands at one point.
Yeah.
You actually took photos of your wife naturally because
Yeah,
it's your wife. So,
right.
that kind of played into the natural progression, I think, of
Totally. And-
unintentionally of what was happening.
Yeah,
right?
and people became
Yeah.
familiar with that. So at the same time that was happening, I was getting inquiries directly to me for again my like social media presence, and I was doing all of my own negotiating and contract writing and things like that. At which point, we were sitting in a meeting for her one day, and her team was like, "Why? Who's doing your deals? Why are we not also doing your deals?" And I was like, "Because I'm not here. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like way down here. I'm a nobody in comparison to who you." But they.
Which you're not, but yeah, go on. You
No,
are.
I mean, I
yeah.
don't.
You're
I mean,
there.
I don't have a
I know what
ton
you
of
mean.
followers
Right.
in comparison to a lot of people, but what they saw was I have a higher engagement, and that means a lot more now to brands than like
The
a
landscape's
follower.
changed.
It has changed a lot. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because some people want micro, some people want, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And my conversion rate is really good. So they saw that, and now they have taken me on as like my own individual entity, and I do my own deals with them, and Kelly has her own deals, and then we have a lot that cross over, so we're both on the contract, so they would get kind of like, it's a little bit more complicated when there's two people on the contract, but basically they're getting more content because we are, at the end of the day,
The
a
power
family.
of both of you together in the family, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jen has been doing this for 2 years, you said, right? I like to do these roundtables because I think you can bring value to the panel, the other person at the table as well.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone like Jen Griswold, who's sitting here, who has a good amount of followers, has good engagement? Do you have a manager? Okay.
Do you want a manager?
Well, I mean, I'm just because there's a lot of people that have followers.
Yeah.
I think your aesthetic's really great, by the way, too. And I think
Well, that's what I was going to say. I love what I saw. When he had told me that we were doing this together, I jumped over and I loved your aesthetic. And if there was like any piece of advice, it's just, I always tell people to like, don't be anyone else on like social media, which I'm not saying you are. I'm saying I think you're doing a great job.
no,
But there's
you
a
are
lot of
different,
people
though.
that don't
I
do
feel
that.
the same way about
There's
her,
a lot
by
of
the way.
people that
Yeah.
don't do that, and they
That's
try to emulate maybe what they see because other people are getting higher engagement rates. But if you come to the table with like authenticity and transparency, people appreciate that more than anything. So
That's
I
branding
think
101.
that goes
Yeah.
a lot farther than a well-taken photo, which no one cares about anymore anyway.
You can't just make pinatas and hold them up like a watermelon pinata anymore.
No,
Like you used
there's
to,
a
like,
reason
years
we
ago.
don't. There's a
Right?
reason we don't do pinatas anymore.
You know what's funny? Because I feel like a lot of people copied your wife, first of all.
Yep.
And it's harder to copy someone like you because you're an actual photographer, in my opinion. And you have the cool. I like your feed because it's very like, the colors are very like saturated and like, which you worked on obviously. But so, how does she scale from where she's at? Just your perspective or your
Yeah.
advice, like. And there's other people that might be listening or here and they have a following, or like if you have 10,000 or 25,000 or 50,000 and you're like unfortunately, that's like kind of normal now for some people, right?
Yeah.
And some of them might be fake, some might be real.
Yeah.
But how do you get to talk to a DBA, or how do you get to talk to?
I think
What do you do? Do they find you? Do you just keep doing what you're doing and
I
hope
think-
and
I
pray?
think
Like,
there's more so instances where they approach people that they see potential in, but my first thing would just be to like flip that idea on its head, and I wouldn't have a focal point end goal of scaling in terms of like numbers. I think if you were able to kind of like cultivate the community that you have and then like engage that already core like group of people that are already following you for a specific reason, that's really worth more than anything else. And I don't know if there is a goal to have representation on behalf of an agency, but if you ever did, that's the type of thing that they care about more than anything else. It's not, I mean, numbers are kind of.
I've actually
Yeah.
been approached by an agent or someone, and they said it was the magic number's 15,000. I have 14,000 followers.
Okay, so you're almost there.
I
I'm
know,
just
really.
kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
But it's really not a goal of mine,
No,
and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think that's one thing I've always done is when I started Instagram, it was just on a whim. Everything I've always done is just, I don't know. Half the time I don't wear shoes in my posts because I don't have them,
Yeah,
or
but,
I'm
like,
barefoot.
who
You know,
cares if
yeah,
that's
I'm like,
you?
but that's always how it's been. It's always how I've done things,
Yeah.
and great things have happened sort of on its own, and that's how I totally hope to continue
Yeah.
to do what I
Yeah.
do.
I think that's awesome.
now, what advice do you give? So if you're at 14,000 whatever,
Yeah.
and someone's at, I mean, I hate to even talk about likes or followers. That's really dumb. To me, it's really stupid. But
Yeah.
how does someone scale if they just want to do the business of being a social influencer?
How to
Like, is it DMing everyone, like you said? Is it?
well, one.
I feel like showing up is like a big major part of this whole situation. Like, being at the right place at the right time, going to the right events, but.
Being a part of the community is important.
Right.
I think so. I think really the most important thing is being yourself, and it sounds really cliche and it sounds very general, but it's your quirks, it's your isms, it's your interests that make you different than everybody else, that makes your voice fresh, and authenticity is key. And I think when you're first starting, DMing is amazing, and nobody should be afraid to do it, because if someone says no, you're in the same boat you were 5 minutes ago and you've lost nothing. And yeah, I don't think really it's about events. I think it's just about being consistent on your feed, creating content that feels authentic to you, and yeah.
Good advice. Okay, back to you, Jeff. Okay. So now, I'm interested about, because we all three of us have family here.
Yep.
We had an interesting conversation outside. You and Kelly have Arlo.
Yep.
Most people know who Arlo is because they follow you probably, but let those go by.
Pause for siren.
Siren, that's a siren. Okay,
Oh,
they're going.
he's going nice and slow too.
By the way, do you have your kids in your shots at all or no? Okay. So we had a conversation. Do you want to touch on that? Because I think that's kind of interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an open.
So
book.
You said when Arlo you try to keep Arlo out of the photos now. When it's a paid, sometimes, right?
We have rules.
Yeah,
So
let's go over the rules.
If it's just like an organic family photo, I have no problem showing his face, because it's just like a living, breathing photo album for us and our family, and the people that follow along with us follow along because of our family story. If it is a sponsored thing, if I'm being compensated for the photo that my audience sees, our whole team knows it's actually written into contracts now. Arlo's not allowed to be in it unless it's like the side of his face, the back of his head, that type of a thing, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll whitelist the content, and then his face ends up somewhere that I can't control to an audience that I didn't pre-approve. And
Right.
it's terrifying. It's a scary world. So if I'm able to control the media, which on my own platforms I am, that's fine. But a lot of times brands come to the table and they want the family aspect, which is totally fine. There's ways to go about talking about that without blatantly having my son's shining face bright and center.
Well, you did a Huggies commercial.
That we changed after that commercial. It was Pampers and
Or Pampers, excuse
yeah.
me. Sorry, Huggies. Sorry, Pampers.
Sorry. We're no longer under contract
Erase
with
that.
them, so it's
Just
fine.
Pampers. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we did a Father's Day campaign with them last year, and
You know what's funny? I didn't know that you did that, and then all of a sudden I was watching a commercial, and I was like, Jeff!
there it is.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, and there was a ton of back and forth about that, about his involvement, and Kelly and I ultimately decided it was okay because at the end of the day we were in like maybe 15 seconds. It was with two other dads, and we were in like a third of the commercial. It wasn't a big deal, but we have just general rules in place. If he is included in sponsored content and we're being compensated as a family, the money automatically goes into a college fund for him. So it's not. We're actively doing things to kind of help prepare him for the future. So our check from Pampers went into a 529 for him.
Well,
Yeah.
plus, most people know your story with Arlo, and anyway, but I think you documented the journey.
Yeah.
I mean, and parenting is a lot of work, but I feel like I understand, especially in your case, because like there's a lot of work that went into that, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and are you guys trying to have? I read you're trying to have another baby, or?
Oh yeah. We want to
Okay.
have a lot of kids. So
Because I was with you on a lot of that beginning phase
Yeah.
journey. What was interesting. So do you know
For those that don't
Do you-
know,
yeah.
we adopted my son
cutest kid ever, by the way?
2.5 years ago from birth. So we were there like in the delivery room. And yeah, now we've gone through the process again. We've been like basically cleared. We're considered a waiting family in the state of California, and we're just waiting to be matched. If there's a birth mother out there that sees us, it's a lot like they compare it a lot to like dating kind of. So like there's a marketing piece about our family, and then there's birth mothers who might find that, and if it's a good
The whole
symbiotic-
process is unbelievable to me.
it's crazy. And if
When
if
you guys, I remember when, in the beginning, when
Yeah.
that was happening. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable to me.
if you end up
Yeah.
hitting it off with a birth mother and you feel like it's a good match, then it's a match, and then you work together until there's a birth. But if not, then you're just like, all right, it's not a match, and you kind of just go your separate way, kind of like a bad date. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
Cool. So, the other part of what you do is photography again.
Yep.
Dude, I mean, you got your stuff in like CB2 or something. Like, what store was that you're in? Was it? What is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
A
There's lot.
zillion?
Yeah, I'm very
So
lucky.
they take, because I think you give a lot of content for free, first of all.
Well,
And
if they
both of
lift
you
it-
guys, the interesting thing is you're creative in like the direction and the styling, right? And you've got the photography,
Yeah.
and you do a lot of these free like wallpapers and stuff like
Yes.
that,
I'll
and
create
people
those. Yeah.
repurpose your photos
Yeah.
or whatever. So is that kind of how you got into these retail locations, or was it through your manager, or did you get approached to separately, or how did
Honestly,
that
a
work out?
lot of that was just very organic word of mouth. So it starts with working with one client, and there's some visibility to a brand new audience that might not have already known about me or my work. Somebody who's in the marketing or creative department at something else might have seen it and be like, hey, we like this photo, we like the style of photography, can we hire this guy? And that's a lot. I'd say 90% of the emails that I get inquiry wise are like, hey, we saw your work with whatever. Do you think you could
They want to
work-
curate it in their store or whatever.
Yeah, like, do you think we could work together as well?
I think so the fascinating thing about, first of all, if we could imagine life without social media at
Yeah.
this point, it'd be insane, right? But
Which is a terrifying thought.
I mean, really, because a lot of people have businesses based off that. But there are incredible, whether you're a artist or a photographer,
Yeah.
or you have a cool collection of apparel, but if you don't put in the work
yeah.
on social, I mean, isn't it insane?
Yeah.
How someone can literally be the most legit photographer in the world, but no one ever finds them because they don't put the work in for social media.
I would agree with that. It's
unbelievable
It's
to
a
me.
free tool at your disposal, and that was the other thing that I learned early on is no one is going to be a bigger hype man than yourself. And I just kind of got over that, and I realized that no one's going to be promoting unless I myself promoting the stuff, because no one's going to see it otherwise. So I early on had to learn how to be my own hype man. And I don't think there's like a ton of ego in that. It's just being proud of the work that you put out there. But yeah, I try strategically to use social media to my advantage whenever
Good.
I can.
And also, I want to stress that I keep saying, because my story is I worked for free for 2 years. Basically, that's how I got started. And I also was naturally part of a lot of events that were taking place, which I think both of you guys, I know we used to see each other a lot. But
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to just be the type of person that you are naturally. But the lifestyle is going to these events or getting invited to these events and being around these other people that might bring value. And the work doesn't stop just when you do a post. I mean, it's like literally an ongoing thing.
Correct.
So that's kind of the inspiration I think that I want to give to some people here.
That's awesome.
Do we have any questions for one of these guys? Here we go, back here.
So Instagram is getting rid of the likes.
I'm going to repeat it, okay? Go ahead.
Oh.
So Instagram getting rid of the likes. I just wonder what your take on that for the future.
Oh, good question.
yeah.
Yeah, because Instagram's going to get rid of the likes.
Do you
So
want to take it first?
I'll let you take it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna base it.
I'm all for it. I think it's really cool because what? Oh, I don't have respect for people that buy their likes. I don't like that. Please don't do that, anyone. But I'm all for it. I think it's awesome because I put a value on like the engagement in the community, and I think there's a lot of pressure that people put on themselves and other people see. It's just like keeping up with the Joneses or that whole thing. But I think it's great because then there's going to be more of an emphasis on the content and just the conversation maybe below a photo, because I don't think they're going to be hiding. Comments are still there. But I have friends that are, they work in social media in Canada, and they have already started rolling it out in Canada, and they're like, it's been only positive. Mm-hmm. Apparently it's been great. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really welcome change. Yeah.
And the idea is that only you'll be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can share it with brands as well.
What do you think about that?
I think it's fantastic. I have a lot of friends on this platform with fewer followers, and they produce amazing content, and it's a constant comparison. Like, what am I doing better than so and so, or what am I not doing right? And I think taking the likes away would let people see what beautiful content people are making.
Think about how less stressed our society will be.
Oh my God, my
Just
post
because
only
of that.
got
Right.
200
It's so
likes.
crazy. It's so dumb. I'm like,
Yeah.
get out and live your life.
Yeah.
Share it on social media. I mean, I do it, but like, don't get hung up on the amount of likes. It's a lot of people will use that to measure success or like happiness, and like, it just doesn't make sense. There's so many other things to worry about.
Yeah.
Or consider or be happy about. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. What would you do if Instagram went out of business tomorrow?
So that's an interesting question because
I hear that a lot from like Gary Vaynerchuk,
Yeah.
people like that. Like,
once you put something on Instagram, it no longer is yours. So that is something that we've also always kept in mind. All the content that I put out there can be repurposed. If somebody wanted to print my Instagram photo and sell it for $10,000 in a gallery, I don't get a single cent, and that's totally legal and fine. But if they went under and pulled the plug tomorrow, I think it's very smart to have some kind of plan B or an exit strategy, or put your eggs in a different basket. And I think diversification is very important in this industry because it's always changing. We never know where it's going to go. I have this conversation with our managers all the time. What's the next step? What's the next thing we want to focus on? Because this is not going to last forever. Eventually, this like Instagram-y social media bubble will pop, and all the people that are putting all of their efforts, 100% of their everything into this one platform that they don't own, it's really scary.
so are you putting a lot of your stuff on your own website? Is that the
So
secret?
I mean,
what's the secret then? Or what's the
I mean,
sauce?
that's it. I'm in the process of doing that. But I mean, as a family, my wife has other businesses going on.
Right.
I have things, irons in the fire, things that I'm working on.
Well, the photography thing in retail is also a
Right,
separate-
and
yeah.
photography is always a medium that people will hopefully have. It's a traditional, professional skill set that I'm hoping that people will always have a need for photos, and that's something that I can fall back on. Social media has just been this weird thing that we fell into a few years ago that just has been like icing on top of the cake. But you cannot get lost in that world and
Are
make it
you-
your own.
Are you guys on YouTube?
We're not.
Heavily,
We
or-
we tried YouTube. I think YouTube is its own beast. It's a lot of
It's
work.
like the same effort for this different platform.
It's
Basically.
more. YouTube is just. I have so much respect for our friends that are YouTubers because there's just a lot that goes into it that is unspoken. There's a lot. There's a lot of really great rewards with YouTube. There's a lot of money in YouTube. I get that. But I always said, like, we tried a YouTube channel for a few months. It didn't work out just because I couldn't
I
keep
remember
up
when you
with
guys were
it.
trying that. By the way, That's
I
fun.
couldn't keep up with it because it was just me putting together. But I was like, if we ever have a team that could do this for me, it'd be a little bit different. But I don't know.
How about you? Are you diversifying? Well, you both have other careers, first of all. So,
Yeah.
but what are you doing?
You mean, what am I do? What if it when? Well, I'd still be working with people of leisure, and I have my grown-up job. And then I'm also always thinking about my next step. I don't ever envision myself being a lifer on Instagram.
Right.
And I have some things in the works that I'm sort of planning out and creatively, and so yeah.
What advice would you give to people if they want to start today on Instagram?
I wrote this down.
Just do it. Start.
That's the same answer everyone gives. Just start.
That there shouldn't be much thought in it. If you want to do it, do it. And I mean, and like you said, it's a tool that's there for you, depending on what you're interested in. And yeah, you do you.
Yeah. And I think it's also important early on to figure out your why.
Yeah.
Why am I here sharing this content today with my audience? What is this doing for other people? For me, my why was, it started out with sharing content that made people happy. That was the number one response that I got. Your pictures evoke happiness, and they brought a smile to my face, and that was like the best thing that I could have gotten. Years later, it was now we're following for maybe my family story, and a lot of it was like adoption awareness and things that I did not at all set out to talk about, but here we are, and they were following our life, and that's where our life went. And now the why is that it's just bringing awareness to families that look different from one another. My son is also a different race. My son's Mexican, so like it's interracial stuff. It's very different than when I set out to do. So yeah.
Yeah, you want to have a voice. I mean, you want to have something that makes you you.
Yes.
Well, I think like in any business, you want to have your purpose, your why.
Yeah.
And that should drive, whether it's social media or anything. Does anyone have a question? Yes, way in the back.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can speak to using Instagram stories as basically a daily vlogging.
Yeah.
Instagram stories as a daily vlog tool, he asked. Okay.
I love it. I was very, very much against it when it first started because I went on like a rampage. I remember there was like a Snapchat few months where I really was into that, and then
Actually, I think someone did an article and like features you in it, if I remember correctly.
yeah, they did
I remember that. Okay, sorry.
about how I had kind of just like I had like added Instagram about how I didn't like how they ripped off this other platform, and then you just give in to the beast, and that's what people are asking for, and now that's what that stuff is written into contracts now for us. Like there's a post, and then there's additional Instagram story amplification, and that's what people want. No one is asking me to produce Snapchat anymore. So you end up going where the money is in that respect. But yeah, it's just another way to keep up with your audience, and it's not thought about. It's not curated. It's oftentimes not, polished or pretty, but it's very real, and I think that's what people like about that additional arm of the platform. I think it's really great.
Did that answer your question? Cool. My question, well, do you want to answer something too?
No, go ahead.
IGTV. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Where's that going?
I have no idea. I've done one, and it was like a vacation video we took with friends of ours, and I threw it on there because it was the day it launched, and I was like, let's see what happens. And I haven't used it since. So if anyone out there has used it, I'd be curious to hear what you think of it, because I probably should be using it more, but I don't know much about it. Do you use it?
I have never. I'm
Okay.
the least techie person in this room.
Oh, okay.
It's so confusing. I don't even know. But I love Insta stories, and I'm
Yeah.
huge on them, and I do them daily.
Yeah.
I think they're so fun.
I know that we should be using it.
Yeah.
Like I've heard from people at Instagram corporate, and they're like, the more you utilize the tools within the platform, the better your
Right.
content
Exactly.
performs. But then you're just like a slave to the platform, and I can't live my life like that. So
I heard if you do it, they will feature it on
Yeah, it's
Explore
just-
because they want to push.
right. But then
the-
when
yeah.
do you sleep and spend time with your kids? So it just
Never.
Right.
It's never ending.
Right.
It's never ending.
Right.
So I think we're gonna try to do an IGTV series of the summer series.
Oh, good.
But literally, I spent like 3 hours today. Like, how the hell do you start? And it's
Yeah.
like only could be like certain amount of minutes, and it has to be
Yep.
less megabytes, and like, anyway. Any other questions?
Oh,
I'm just pointing now.
You're just
I'm just pointing. Anyone?
you're just like
Anyone?
pulling
Anyone?
questions out of the audience.
I knew you would. Yes. See, that's why I pointed to you. We have a really amazing photographer in our presence over here, Jeff. She came to see you today.
Really?
Your name again? Amanda. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I'm curious about your time balance and like how ever you schedule. I know that you have a job and a family, and then with your full-time creative work, I'm also a full-time creative. And
Yeah.
deciding how much time to spend on something. It's just I'd be interested to hear how you're
I'm gonna repeat it.
how you split up that work.
So the question was about time management, how you split up life and work. Okay.
So-
You take it.
So every week is different. My kids are in school, so I get that like school time is my work time, and I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I get work done in the morning. I go in to meet with brands maybe twice a week to do work with models or with textiles, with new designs that we're coming up with. And then I post when I'm like waiting for them in the car or something. It's really on the fly. I don't have anything set out in stone. It's really where I can squeeze it in. But, every day is a hustle and every day it gets done. So,
And I would say that there's no such thing as balance. I think it's just like survival. Seriously, it is truly just like surviving. And time blocking has been really beneficial. Do you have kids? So I didn't realize how little time there was in the day until I had a child. But it's just been like time blocking, and what I realized is even things that shouldn't have been like a appointment, let's say, on the calendar, I just made an appointment so that you don't miss it. Am I? Okay, I don't know. So I know that like no matter what day of the week, I wake up the same time every day. Certain days of the week, I'm meeting with my trainer at the gym, or I'm sending my kid off to school. And then when my son's at school, that's the time that I have to like get shit done and get my work done. And then once 4:30 rolls around and I'm picking him up, I suck at it, but I'm trying my best to not be in work mode anymore until bedtime, at which point then I work until whatever time I go to sleep. But time blocking has been really important. But I think balance is just like a really hard word because there really is no balance. It's just like you just make it work. You just make it work.
Any other questions? Any other brand? What about questions from brands? I want to hear from you guys over the table.
Is there brands here?
We got some entrepreneurs over here. You got
They
a
asked
question?
They did ask a question.
Okay, how about you? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Natalie, and I'm a fashion designer. I'm actually sustainable fashion.
Natalie's in
so
sustainable
cool.
fashion.
So I just started. How do I begin to engage my customers into Instagram?
Great question.
Really, me spending the money. Like, let's say I have $1,000. Should I allocate it on Instagram, or should I allocate it in also writing blogs on my website?
How does she allocate $1,000 budget into as a new brand? That's a great question, actually.
So, People of Leisure is a really, really new brand, very, very new, and we only have right now, I think, 4,900 followers. When I started with them, we were at like 1,000, and I would say one thing to do. What is it? Clothing? Okay, so one thing that really benefited us was we found a photographer that we really loved, their style, and I would say paying for amazing photos that really represent your brand, that will look great in a feed and represents who you are, who your customer is. That was really key for us, because once we had that down, it helped us narrow down who the woman was who was going to be wearing our clothes, what kind of followers we would get, what influencers we'd be working with eventually, things like that. I don't know if you've any.
I have nothing to add, but I'm just saying, the only thing I can add is just like, I think with brands and social media, it's a little bit different than an individual person. So like you said, it was like almost 5,000.
Yeah.
I think that's impressive, because that's 5,000 people that care enough about a specific brand to like follow them and see the content over and over again. And that is harder than someone like me. You're just following along as like a person. So those are like 5,000 people that could be converted to like customers, which is a lot harder than an individual. Like that in itself is very impressive. And I think that's oftentimes an uphill battle with brands and companies. Like I work with a lot of companies that I don't follow. I really have to want to follow a brand or a
Totally.
company to
Right.
do it. Yeah.
I actually want to talk to you afterwards, because I actually want to document this that you're talking about. And actually, the true number of the budget, I'd be interested to knowing if it's 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever. My advice is to find micro-influencers and actually find the ones, and you could probably agree with this too, it's been 2 years. Find the people that actually like your product,
Yeah.
and don't just pay. That always comes out wrong. So I would say pay. If you're going to pay, it has to be something crazy, but find someone that really likes your product and wants to wear it and will engage, and people will follow them because of it, and you eventually. But just build their organic following.
My organic following, I only have 960 followers. I only started last September. I've gotten
That's
great
awesome.
feedback.
That's really awesome.
Never paid. I have California Apparel News, ABC7.
Oh, great.
So everything that I've done is all on me.
Yeah.
Is it made in LA?
Yeah, made in LA, recycled waterfall fabric.
Oh, wow.
Simple mix, ship ready.
Men and women's?
Just women.
Women's, okay.
I work with indigenous communities in Mexico, so I
Cool.
have like the storytelling, but I'm not at 1,000 or 15,000 followers.
I think those days have changed.
It's totally
I mean,
fine.
I think even the last 6 months, it's even changed even more after the algorithm changed again.
Point of view of diversifying my portfolio, like I don't want to just put my eggs on Instagram. If I should be writing blogs and storytelling and email growing, and like if Instagram were to die tomorrow, then I still have email.
Well, here's the thing. Never in the history of the world, in my opinion, has it been easier to start a brand or engage with human beings. Honestly, you can actually sit there and DM. I don't even know if there's a limit, but you could probably find 50 to 100 people that you think represent your product, that would represent your product well, and DM each person, and actually just focus on that and build a business off those people.
And do you have an email list? Yeah. Okay, that's going to be the most important thing. I wouldn't. That's great.
200 is that's
I would
great.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
work on building that. that should be like your sole focus, because that's something that you yourself own. No one can take those emails away from you unless people opt out. But
I
if-
also think telling the journey,
yeah,
and not just on social, but you could do it on your website and own that content, like
Yeah.
we were kind of talking about.
and it's something you can take with
So
you.
you could do your
yeah.
blog and actually
Yeah.
email a news, maybe bi-monthly, maybe not bi-weekly or weekly, but I would just do a journey on your blog, and then actually you could carry that down into all the social channels as well. But I think that's huge. I think that'd be huge because you want to rank as SEO as well. You know, that'll help. But I want to talk to you afterwards. Anyone else?
There
You
go.
guys are awfully quiet over there. I see
Oh, you had a
smiles.
question.
Okay, there we go. Question.
Okay, I'm also a budding brand and lifestyle photographer, and I'm wondering,
A budding. For, she's a humble photographer, folks.
but I'm new.
She has a question. What is it?
When you are hiring or are hired on a project, how often would you say like that content is pretty well planned out and like you're just coming in to shoot it, or you're collaborating with a photographer to kind of plan out what you want the project to
The
look
question was, do
Yeah,
they
I
hand
think
off
so.
the keys to you to do a photo shoot, or are they very unorganized or organized, right? Or do they give you the full reign of creative, or
like. How collaborative is it often? Or
okay?
what's the
How
ratio?
collaborative is it? Is it? I get it.
For me, it's always client to client. I've had situations that I've gotten in that are just like really big learning experiences where I think that I have the creative reins and I have a finished folder of like, beautiful assets that I hand over to the client, and they're like, why didn't we get that angle? Or why didn't we? And I'm like, did you have a shot list? Did we talk about this? These are things that I would have asked for ahead of time, and it's totally not their fault. I didn't ask for it ahead of time. So now a lot of times if I know that maybe they're going to be used in a specific fashion, like a lot of times I'll ask specifically, what are these photos going to be used for? Are you going to be using them on social? Are we going to be shooting primarily horizontal, vertical for like social media? Do you want like a horizontal hero shot for your website? These are things that I ask up front now, because I don't ever want to be on a job site that I can't recreate. A lot of times you just like.
Do you have like a sheet? I think that'd be helpful for people. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, a lot of times it's not.
You heard it here.
I don't.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, I probably should.
Tomorrow at midnight, Jeff's gonna upload
I'm gonna have
one.
one. I know, but it's a lot. It's
That
just
actually would be very
it's
helpful,
just like
but yeah.
questions that I should be asking ahead of time. These clients, do you have a shot list that you want me to keep in mind? Because then at the end of the day, you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure that you're checking off everything that they are expecting you to do, so there's no gray area at the end, because it can get weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you often find that like when you're hiring people also like do you have stylists that you're working with that's coming in and setting up images, or how much styling is that?
Do the brands hire stylists to come with the photo shoot?
I always ask if there's a budget for a stylist. If there's a budget for a stylist, I have a stylist that I work with, and I will bring her on. If not, then I basically am like, it's on you. It's my job to kind of show up. Because, again, in the beginning, I didn't know any better, and I wasn't getting compensated for more than just showing up and taking a picture. But a lot of times they'd be like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Here's the product. Can you style it? You do a really good job on social media. And I'm like, that's somebody else doing that. I just kind of shared it. And there's like, again, a lot of gray area. So now I ask up front, if it's something that you want to be styled, do you have a budget for a stylist? Because that's not inclusive in the fee that you're hiring me for. But if you do, then I'm happy to bring on a stylist, because you're going to get exponentially better content, if that makes sense. Yeah. Don't do a job that you aren't being compensated for, is really what I'm trying to. Yeah. Yeah. Like, know your worth.
No budget, no dice.
Yeah.
Yes, here we go. I knew it.
Not that I felt like I should ask a question or anything, but what was
Just
your
calling you up.
Someone's getting a margarita.
We run our own brand, but it's very niche, so it's probably not relevant for this. So I'm going to ask a question that's just out of curiosity. What was your first collaboration?
What was your first collaboration? Good question.
Like traditional photography, or like the other?
Like, what was your first, I guess, brand deal?
I don't know what my first like influencer thing was, but the first thing that I got hired for was like a traditional photography job was a gelato shop in Beverly Hills, they had seen my work that I did somewhere else. That was just like for a friend. It wasn't anything that I got like compensated for. And they hired me, and they were like, "We want you to shoot the interior of this brand new gelato shop that opened like right on Rodeo Drive." I was like, "Oh my God, I got like a job," and I had no idea what I was doing. I definitely faked it the entire time. I thought the photos were pretty good, and then I never saw them do anything with them, so they probably were awful. I don't know. So that was my first experience.
Mine was a watch company, and the photos were terrible.
Was
I
it
did
Daniel
something
Wellington?
really strange and distorted with my hand. I couldn't tell because I did not. It wasn't natural. Yeah,
What watch company?
Jord watches.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
This was way back when, and yeah, they didn't do anything.
If you would have said Swatch, we would have known how old that we all are. We are. Cool. Anyone else? Are we good? We good to go?
Cool.
Chirp, chirp. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you guys for coming out. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.